Hi everybody, it's Shelly. I'm here in the studio. I'm making a bird bath for my flower garden. So I'm super excited to see how it turns out. If you're a student watching, we're going to be talking about the stages of clay and why it's important to do certain things at each stage. We're going to talk about elements and principles and color theory, which are all going to be on your test. So please listen carefully to those certain concepts. So if you're ready, let's get started. So what I'm going to do is just roll out a huge slab and I'm going to place it on this plate. I just found, I have this plate at home, to tell you the truth. It's just a wooden plate, you know, covered with shellac. So I don't really use it, so I'm going to use it. And I'm just going to layer it with plastic. I'm going to roll out a big, huge slab and I'm going to put it on this. And this is going to be my base for my bird bath. What I'm doing now is starting my wheel real slow, and I'm just going to use my rib and start in the middle and just start heading out towards the edges to get this thing nice and smooth. Now what I want to do is begin to manipulate this because look, it's still wet, see? So if I wait too long, it's going to get dry and then I can't manipulate it. And if you think about it, something in the garden, I mean this is going to be a bird bath, so something in the garden is kind of organic shaped. So I want it to not look real structured, you know. I want it to look a little bit organic from the garden. So I'm going to manipulate a little bit. So let me show you what I did. I just propped up the edges, see, like this with plastic. And so I've got just like an edge coming up here. I propped another edge here. And then I propped another one right here and another one there. So I'm just gonna leave it just like this to dry overnight. Knowing the stages of clay and a little bit about it really depends on the success of your pieces. And if you're a student watching right now, you know that all this material will be on this vinyl. So we have the plastic stage, which is the first stage of clay where it's really moldable, blendable, right out of the bag. After stage one, the clay starts moving into its leather hard stage. We have 3 stages of leather hard: the early, the middle, and the late. This stage right now, it's been drying for 2 hours, but look, I can still move it. So it is the early stage of leather hard. I wouldn't want to start doing any carving, anything major to it until it gets to the middle stage or the later stage of leather hard. Now, if I bend it and it breaks, then I am past the early stage of leather hard. That means I'm at the later stage of leather hard, like a chocolate bar. You don't want it to get to the chocolate bar stage yet because you still have some manipulation to do. So that's the key of knowing the different stages of clay. You really have to know them. Otherwise, your pieces will not be successful and it will be very stressful for you. Now I'm back in the studio. I can't wait to show you what's next. So my bird bath has been drying all day, but it is raining here in Oklahoma, y'all. And I have moisture here in my art studio, so it's taking forever to dry. But I have a tool. This is my tool that I'm going to use next, and I'm going to put some holes around the edges because I'm going to be hanging this in my flower garden. So I can't wait to do that. I'll show you how to do that. Now the edges are starting to dry. See? I mean, if I bent this right there, I would crack it right there because this is the middle stage of leather hard, but this is the early stage. So if you can tell that if I bend it like this, the middle's still bending. But what I'm gonna do is put my hand behind this area right here, and I'm going to take this tool and I'm just gonna stick it in there like that. And it's gonna create a hole, see that? And then I'm gonna put another one right here. See how easy that is? So now that I have the holes in the edges here for hanging, there's really not much I can do right now. I just need to let it dry. And I mean, I could carve into it tomorrow morning at the later stage of leather hard, but that's really not what I want to do. I want to focus on glazes for this one, so I can't wait to show you my glaze idea. I'll wait until I get it bone dry and then fire it once, and then I'll show you how to do that. This piece is completely bone dry. It's been drying for about 5 or 6 days. So what I'm doing now is taking some steel wool and I'm just smoothing it out. The only option you have now at the bone dry stage is to clean it up with steel wool or add underglaze. You would not want to do any carving. Students, you would not want to do any carving right now. And I'm sure you can understand why you can't carve, because this thing is so fragile. And if you're trying to carve and do all kinds of, I don't know, underglaze and trying to draw into it and carve into it with sgraffito or layered sgraffito, you're really gonna break it. And I've seen that happen over and over again. No matter how many times I tell my students, please don't do that, they end up doing it. So I got the piece in the kiln already, and this is it finished right here, okay? It's ready for glazing. I put a white, this color right here, just a regular white overglaze on it. And what I want to do with this piece is give it this sort of effect. See this little pot that I made? This sort of like color burst effect in the inside. I've got blue hydrangea color in here, and I just diluted it a little bit with water so it flows well. I've got my wheel going slowly. This is just a really good Grumbacher brush with a tip that really is able to load a lot of color. And I'm just gonna start in the middle right here, and then I'm just gonna start pulling the color out like this. So now I've got this container here, and this is Cumulus Clouds Overglaze, which is amazing. I wish I had this cute little pot to show you that I made. It's at home, but it's Cumulus Clouds, and then I have this cool Delft Blue, which is a little bit darker than Hydrangea, but it's really pretty. So I mix that in here, and then I also have a Sapphire Shimmer Glaze that I added to this, and I'm mixing it up real good, and I'm gonna apply that on top of this. And I'm just going to kind of fan that out like this on top of it. Do you see those chunks? Those chunks are going to be amazing color explosions, and that's how I ended up getting this effect. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about, the chunks. Do you see that? See those little chunks? Those are going to explode at the high fire temperature, and they're going to create these little crystal explosions, and they're going to mix with that under color of Hydrangea, that Delft Blue, that Cumulus Clouds. It's going to be really cool. I can't wait to see it. At least I hope it's going to be cool. And since I mentioned going back in with Hydrangea, let's just pretend, you know, that I did cover up too much. This is kind of what you would do. You would just go in with a little bit, not a lot, because you wouldn't want to add too much Hydrangea and then cover up what you've done. You want it to be a mixture, like a watercolor type of mixture of colors. I think this is going to be so cool. Okay, let's start thinking color theory, elements, principles of design. If you're thinking of color theory, this is going to be a really good kind of monochromatic look. All of the same color families, with the white means it's tinted. And then let's look at depth. You know, you've got the darker color, you've got the Hydrangea, you've got those other dark blues in here. So you've got your depth. So remember, if you want to create some depth in your pieces and incorporate those elements and principles, you would be thinking of the dark colors receding back into the piece and the light colors jumping out at you. So, you know, tinting and shading is what we would be talking about right here. So then taking another brush and getting some of this white glaze and actually applying that is what I'll show you next. I let this dry a little bit. It's still a little bit muddy right here, but I think that still might be okay because the colors, when they mix, will look pretty, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of give it a painterly effect here, and actually I'm glad that some of it is not dry, because it's mixing and there's a little bit of blending going on here that I think is going to be beautiful. So that's all I want to do is just get those highlights to jump out. Okay, so I've added the white for highlights. I think I'm ready to get it in the high fire. So I'm going to fire it at a cone 05, and when I take it out, I will show you how it turned out. Well, I'm in my backyard and I went and got this out of the kiln this morning and had my husband put this chain and attach it all the way to the top of the eaves so you can see it hanging here. Isn't it cute? I love how the colors turned out. They're really pretty, but I'm gonna move so you can see. Here's my sunroom, so I can sit in my sunroom and watch the birds in the bird bath. I think it turned out really cute.